On October 9th, 2022, we're going to be having the full moon in Aries, or a full moon in the sign of Aries. And so when there's a full moon, the energy is at its highest point. The energy is so huge. And we can really find a lot of opportunity to release a lot of these emotions, release these feelings that are pent up inside of all of us. Because it's not healthy to bottle all those things inside, is it? What happens? Well, they grow stronger. What resists persists. And if we don't take care of it, well, it's only going to get worse. It's only going to fester. It's only going to just sit and cook. And then it's just going to come out like Mount Vesuvius. Aries is a sign of the warrior. The warrior inside us, the strong, bold pioneer inside all of us. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It really gets things going for all of the other signs. So if we think about it, that is Aries' speciality, is its ability to step up to the plate with the self-righteousness and courage and say, I'm not going to wait. I'm going to start this and I'm going to begin a revolution. It's about acting in the way of and speaking your truth. Speaking your truth. What's true for you? What do you believe? How do you feel? What do you want? What do you need? I'm going to be blunt since, I am an Aries sun, and this full moon, the sun in Libra, moon in Aries is opposite me because I had the sun in Aries, moon in Libra, to, whatever you do, whatever you say, check in with yourself and think, is this really true for me? Is this authentic? Or is this because of somebody else's, demands or pressures or influence put on me that isn't my truth? That is, energy and vibrations and information and, orders and their goals, their visions that are not my own. Aries is a very assertive sign. Being assertive, it can be. And let's talk about wounds for a moment, because we do have, Chiron coming into the picture with this as well. It is conjunct this, full moon, and this is one of the big things that is specific to this full moon in Aries, not necessarily, any full moon in Aries, is wounds. If there are any, wound that is triggered, then putting salt on the wounds can heal it, actually, but it may hurt, it may sting, it may, be just in just throbbing pain, because of what somebody did or what somebody said that really, irks you and hurts you. But that has to happen in order for healing, in order for true peace and harmony. And we're going to discover that in July of 2023, beginning from that time when the North Node moves into Aries and the South Node moves into Libra, because remember, the South Node and North Node move retrograde. They do not move forwards. And then, when it comes to, confronting somebody, sometimes, that has to happen. Do it in a respectful, honest way. And an assertive way, not an aggressive way. You're not bulldozing somebody. You're not, bringing somebody down. Really ruffling their feathers to the point of losing that connection, putting up a wall between you and another person, and making them, you're a magnet and the other person's a magnet, and basically, the two of you are repelling at this time, if this should be the case. So, be aware of when the intensity and when the anger and the aggravation comes to a head, that is just, it blows the house down, blows somebody down, it burns the house, metaphorically speaking. And, at the end of a conflict, the two people should really be closer together, more connected, more in love, more at peace. Whatever issue is resolved, as opposed to the wound is cut deeper, and you two are going in opposite directions because you refuse to clean up the mess, fix the issue, come together, draw the olive branch, compromise, forgive, talk it out. So, it's fair. There has to be fairness and, equality, of where everyone has their turn to speak and listen, everyone has an opinion. And the high road of Libra is seeing all the different sides, weighing out, sizing up, examining all the different sides of an issue, and then finding a solution collaboratively to a given problem. And this doesn't have to be for any kind of, confrontation, any kind of, issue, or schism between, one side and another, like if there's a war, war and peace. This is basically the axis, for those of you that have read the full, the book, Full Throttle, the whole entire book, War and Peace. That is basically Aries and Libra opposite each other. Aries is a very primal sign. So dealing with, very primal, instinctual, real and raw energy, real and raw desires that surpasses the intellect, surpasses the mind, being open and training yourself to feel and think about something in a certain way. It is immediate. It is your, gut reaction to a situation, your gut feeling, your gut impulse to do this or do that, or go this way or go that way, or, addressing somebody in this way or another way. So very primal, very primal. Your own desires. Aries has to do with the strong, desires that you have. Libra out, peace. It is peaceful. It's very, very different. It wants the, harmony. It wants the connection. Doesn't want to divide. Doesn't want one person to be, on a separate island than another. Why not collaborate? Why not, come together and go on this journey of life together, and, live together. There is, a need for, connection and, affection and, love with Libra. It's not about taking Libra's sign relationship, working as a team, teamwork. At worst, Libra can be indecisive. With the moon in Aries, Aries is very decisive. Aries, focuses. Like, I have a direction, I have an aim, I'm going to go there. It's as simple as that. So use the moon in Aries to make that decision, to make that choice. So I have some, another little aspect of this full moon is moon, opposite Venus. And, Venus is the planet of love, and, how do we want to feel, nourished in terms of our pleasure, our values, our partnerships. And so this could also indicate, needing connection at all costs. Um, you know, and, I can't memorize. Like, I want to find someone out there who memorizes all the aspects that there is. But so, Moon opposite Venus is about, needing the emotional nourishment, needing the collaboration and that connection and that love from, somebody else. And, you know, it can be through pleasure, it can be through, nature, it can be through, look to your moon sign, look to your Venus sign. Your moon sign is how you nurture, how you need to be nurtured, what makes you feel emotionally secure. And Venus is, what partner do you need to be in relationship with that is compatible with you. And, maybe Venus and Gemini, maybe you want to read something or watch, videos online of people to soothe you or connect with other people talking about your feelings, sharing your thoughts with someone else. It goes on and on. So, that may go on. And then there's also the Chiron into this. Chiron is the wounded healer. And, when we say, I'm going to fix you, then we turn that into a problem. Accept, embrace, and, integrate that wound as a part of, yourself. And, when we do that, we can find peace and we can find more, stability and security inside of us. We can really feel like we're at home inside ourselves. Um, and, if there's any tension in relationships, conflicts, someone overpowering you, or any, you know, negative, emotionally intense thing that may get triggered up around this time. Release it. That's really the answer. Release it in some way, shape, or form, in a constructive way. So that is all that I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share this video, and hit the bell so you don't miss any future videos from me. Bye for now, and have a wonderful full moon in Aries.